Have you ever felt that incredibly specific, just bone-deep exhaustion of staring at a glowing screen full of faces?
Oh, yeah, the swipe fatigue.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Where your thumb is moving in this almost involuntary rhythmic twitch, right? Just swiping left,
I
swiping
think your
right,
reflex you can't even control anymore.
right. And you suddenly realize you feel absolutely, fundamentally no connection to a single one of them.
It's a very specific flavor of modern alienation, I think.
It really is. It's this profound modern paradox where you're looking at a parade of hundreds, maybe thousands of human beings,
All theoretically potential partners, right?
right, all potential partners, and yet
Yeah.
you have never felt more isolated or just emotionally barren in your entire life.
Yeah.
So welcome to today's deep dive because we are getting right into that feeling today.
We really are. Because, we've managed to construct this infrastructure for romance that somehow mass produces loneliness.
Mass produces loneliness. Wow, that is exactly it.
And that is the exact phenomenon we are untangling today.
Okay, so let's unpack this because today we are exploring a massive cultural shift that is happening right now, like right under our feet.
The huge pivot.
Yeah, we are finally, collectively, moving away from that exhausting, gamified swipe culture of modern dating.
Thankfully.
Seriously, thankfully. And we are transitioning into this new era of highly intentional, meaningful connection.
Right. And specifically, we're going to look at the mechanics of this shift.
Exactly. Uncovering how, utilizing platforms designed around relationship guidance and social etiquette can actually help.
And we're going to be talking a lot about Weddizer as the prime example of this new vanguard.
Yes, Weddizer. Because using resources like that can completely rewire the neurobiology of how we approach lasting love.
To set the stage here, the premise we are exploring is that prioritizing quality over quantity in our romantic lives, it isn't just some nostalgic yearning for a pre-internet era.
Like, oh, I wish it was the 1990s again.
Right, exactly. It's not that. It is a vital psychological necessity for our baseline emotional well-being.
A necessity,
Right.
not a luxury.
Exactly. The current architecture of, treating human connection like a high-frequency trading market.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it. High-frequency trading.
It's collapsing under its own weight, right?
Absolutely.
We are literally breaking our own brains trying to optimize love.
Which is honestly just a relief to acknowledge out loud.
Right.
Because the numbers game is just soul-crushing.
Yeah.
But I think, to understand the cure, we really need to dissect the disease first.
Yeah, we have to look at the pathology.
How did we get here? Like, how did dating become a second unpaid job that we all absolutely hate?
Let's roll back the tape, I guess, to the dawn of the swipe era.
Let's do it.
Because the initial promise was incredibly alluring.
Oh, it was sold as a miracle.
It was. It was sold to us as this triumph of infinite choice and supreme efficiency.
Right, it was the ultimate optimization.
Yeah.
You no longer had to rely on the statistical improbability of bumping into your soulmate at a coffee shop.
Or being set up by a well-meaning but totally misguided coworker.
Oh my gosh, yes, the blind dates. The entire dating pool was suddenly, digitized, categorized, and placed right in your pocket.
And what's fascinating here is that this taps into a very specific psychological trap.
Okay, what trap?
The illusion of the perfect match.
Ah, the idea that perfection's out there.
Right. The logic dictated that if you have access to a mathematically unlimited pool of candidates, your chances of finding absolute frictionless perfection must skyrocket.
Because the numbers are so big.
Exactly. If you just swipe one more time, right, you might find someone who has all the qualities of the last person.
But who also likes your favorite obscure indie band.
Right. And speaks fluent French. And cooks.
It makes mathematical sense on the surface, A bigger sample size should yield a statistically superior result.
In theory.
Like, if you were looking for a needle in a haystack, you obviously want the biggest haystack possible.
Well, let's challenge that. Because human psychology does not operate on the rules of big data analytics.
We aren't algorithms.
No, we aren't. The reality of the swipe actually resulted in this cascading series of negative cognitive outcomes.
Such as?
The most prominent one being severe decision fatigue.
Okay. Decision fatigue. That's something we usually hear about in the context of, like, tech CEOs wearing the same turtleneck every day so they don't have to choose an outfit.
Exactly, Steve Jobs style.
Right. So how does that apply to swiping on an app?
Well, think about the evolutionary biology of the human brain. For the vast majority of human history, we evolved in small nomadic bands.
Like, what, 50 people?
Maybe 150 people, max. So your pool of potential mates was incredibly small.
You knew everyone.
Right. Your prefrontal cortex, that's the part of the brain responsible for complex decision-making and evaluating long-term consequences.
Okay.
It was never, ever designed to evaluate 300 potential life partners in a 45-minute bathroom break.
Oh, wow. But like that, it's just a staggering way to frame it. You are essentially demanding your brain to perform an evolutionary impossible task.
You are short-circuiting the hardware.
Right. Because every time you look at a profile,
Your brain is performing a complex, high-energy calculation.
it's doing work.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
You are evaluating facial symmetry, socioeconomic indicators, implied personality traits from their bio.
Whether they like dogs or cats.
Exactly, all in a fraction of a second.
And doing that over and over.
After 20 profiles, the prefrontal cortex starts to run out of glucose. It physically gets tired.
Which totally explains why, like, after an hour of swiping, you aren't actually looking for a partner anymore.
Not at all.
You're just sorting shapes and colors. You've basically reduced human beings to a binary reflex.
Yep. Left, right, left, right.
It's like when a word loses all meaning. If you say it too many times out loud, the faces just lose all humanity.
And that exhaustion directly leads to the second major issue, which is catastrophically reduced satisfaction.
Which is so counterintuitive, you'd think more options make us happier.
You would think so, but the data shows they actually make us deeply anxious and far less satisfied with whatever we ultimately choose.
I mean, this is the paradox of choice in action, right?
Exactly.
It's like, okay, think of it like going to a restaurant. If I go to a place and there are only two things on the menu, chicken or fish.
Keep it simple.
Right. And I order the chicken, I'm probably going to enjoy the chicken.
Because there's only one other option to miss out on.
Exactly. But if the menu is 40 pages long, like at a diner,
Oh, the worst.
and I order the chicken, I spend the entire meal agonizing over whether I should have ordered the steak or the pasta or the duck.
You're second guessing the whole time.
Yes. I've completely ruined the meal I actually have by obsessing over the meals I didn't choose.
That is exactly the mechanism at play here. When you
Yeah.
have infinite options on a dating platform, the burden of making the quote-unquote perfect choice becomes utterly paralyzing.
Not too much pressure.
You go on a date, and instead of experiencing the person sitting across from you, your brain is running this background process.
Just constantly comparing.
Yes, comparing them to the ghosts of 1,000 unswiped profiles.
He's funny, but is he as funny as the guy in the blue shirt I matched with yesterday?
Right. She's smart, but maybe the next swipe is smarter.
So you are constantly haunted by the phantom of a slightly better option,
Haunting is the perfect word for it.
which makes it impossible to actually be present. I mean, if you are constantly scanning the horizon for the next best thing, you are not dedicating any real cognitive or emotional bandwidth to the person currently in front of you.
And this brings us to the core pathology of swipe culture. It inherently incentivizes shallow interactions.
Because you can't go deep if you're always looking sideways.
Right. The architecture of these platforms is built entirely around FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Now, everyone knows what FOMO is. We use it for parties and events.
Sure.
But in the context of dating, it's not just about missing a party. It's a structural barrier to intimacy.
A massive barrier.
Because why would I invest the massive emotional labor required to truly get to know you, to, uncover your flaws and share mine?
If you fundamentally believe someone better is waiting for you just 5 pixels away.
Exactly. Why do the work?
And I'd even take that a step further. FOMO doesn't just prevent investment, it actively punishes it.
How so?
Well, human connection requires a suspension of the search. To truly connect with another nervous system, your brain needs to settle. It needs to feel safe and focus on the present interaction.
You have to land the plane.
Yes. But the gamified design of swipe apps, the variable ratio reward schedules, the little dopamine hits when the screen flashes a match,
The little chimes and animations.
it is explicitly engineered to keep you perpetually in search mode.
Oh, wow. It's a Skinner box.
That's exactly what it is.
You are literally the rat pressing the lever, hoping for a pellet.
Over and over again.
And the terrifying part is, the apps don't want you to find the pellet and leave the cage.
No, their business model relies on retention.
They want you to keep pressing the lever forever.
And living in that perpetual state of high alert searching, it leads inevitably to burnout.
It just drains you.
It depletes our emotional reserves entirely. I mean,
Yeah.
going on endless first dates that go nowhere.
Oh, performing the same introductory monologue about your career and your hobbies over and over again, it's exhausting.
And bracing yourself for the constant low-grade trauma of casual rejection or ghosting.
It turns vulnerability into a chore. You build up these emotional calluses.
You really do.
So if that is the disease, right, the infinite buffet of digital choices that leaves us starving and exhausted, what is the antidote?
We have to change the diet.
Right, because clearly more choices aren't working. So the logical counter movement has to be intentional restriction.
Yes. And this requires a massive philosophical pivot for most people.
It's hard to do.
It is. We have to completely reevaluate the concept of quality over quantity. It's not just a nice slogan anymore.
It's not just something you embroider on a pillow.
No, it's a structural necessity for building intimacy.
Okay, but I need to push back on this a little bit, just for the sake of argument.
Please do.
Is it really that simple? Like, does just severely restricting your dating pool magically make you better at building relationships?
That's a fair question.
Because if I am fundamentally terrible at communicating my needs to 50 people, aren't I just going to be equally terrible at communicating my needs to 2 people?
Right. The numbers don't change the behavior.
Exactly. Reducing the volume doesn't automatically increase the skill, does it?
That is a highly critical distinction to make. Restriction itself isn't magic.
Okay.
It is about the reallocation of psychological resources.
Reallocation.
When you limit your options, you are reclaiming your cognitive bandwidth. Emotional intimacy doesn't spontaneously generate just because there are fewer people in the room.
Right, you still have to build it.
It is meticulously constructed over time through sustained, focused attention.
So it's fundamentally an issue of bandwidth.
Exactly. Think of it like a computer's RAM.
Okay, I like this analogy.
If you have 40 browser tabs open, your computer slows to a crawl, right?
Oh, absolutely. The fan is screaming, everything is lagging.
And nothing loads properly. So when you are managing 10 different superficial text threads with matches on an app, your emotional RAM is maxed out.
You are constantly switching contexts.
Yes, and because of that, you can't process deep information.
You're just trying to keep the browser from crashing.
Exactly. But when you close 38 of those tabs, suddenly you have the processing power to actually run a complex program.
You can actually focus on one window.
When you restrict your dating pool to maybe 1 or 2 intentional connections, you finally have the mental bandwidth to engage meaningfully.
So the quality of the interaction changes.
Radically. You begin to ask structurally different questions. You listen to the subtext of the answers. This concentrated depth of communication naturally builds neurobiological trust.
So restricting the pool forces you to stop behaving like a recruiter just scanning resumes.
Yes.
And you start behaving more like an investigator.
Yeah.
You were actually looking for depth, not just checking boxes.
And that focused pursuit is what actually cures the burnout.
Because you aren't spread so thin.
When you aren't trying to manage a dozen different fragile, high-risk micro-connections, the ambient anxiety of dating drops significantly.
Yeah, has to.
You shift from a frantic, high-stakes numbers game into a calm, deliberate evaluation process.
It fundamentally lowers your cortisol levels.
It really does.
You can actually breathe, you can regulate your nervous system and evaluate the person clearly without the noise of the algorithm buzzing in your pocket every 5 minutes.
But here is where we hit the crux of the issue. Acknowledging that we need to restrict our options and focus on quality, that's just a theoretical framework.
Right, it's great in theory.
But how do you actually execute that in the real world? How does one operate within this new paradigm?
And this is where we transition into the actual architecture of intentional dating.
The how-to.
Right, because if we are throwing out the swipe algorithm, we need a completely new operating system.
We do. And intentional dating is the deliberate pivot away from casual, serendipitous encounters.
The whole let's just see what happens vibe.
Right, away from that and toward a hyper-focused pursuit of compatibility and long-term potential.
Okay, so what does that look like?
It requires being exceptionally clear about your goals, your values, and your expectations right from the very outset.
Which honestly I think sounds terrifying to a lot of people.
Oh, it's very intimidating.
Because it requires stripping away all the cool, aloof, let's just see where this goes, posturing that we've all been hiding behind for the last decade.
The safety net of not caring.
Exactly. It demands radical vulnerability up front.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at what this actually requires in practice. The first foundational piece is establishing incredibly clear relationship goals.
This means defining the destination before you even put the key in the ignition.
Right. Where are we driving?
Are you seeking marriage? A lifelong partnership without the legal structure of marriage? Are you looking for a co-parent? You have to map out the non-negotiables before you engage.
And I can hear people cringing at this right now, thinking, if I bring up marriage on a first date, I'm going to look completely insane.
It's a common fear.
But we aren't talking about proposing over appetizers, right?
Not at all.
We are talking about macroscopic alignment. It is profoundly respectful to say early on, just to be transparent, I am dating with the ultimate goal of finding a life partner and starting a family.
It saves an incalculable amount of time and emotional damage.
So much damage.
The alternative is dating someone for 2 years, falling deeply in love,
Oh, this is the worst.
and then having a catastrophic breakup because you realize one of you wants to be a digital nomad living out of a backpack in Bali, and the other wants a mortgage and 3 kids in the suburbs.
Right. Love cannot conquer a fundamental mismatch in life trajectory.
It just can't.
So, establish the goals. Check. The next piece of the intentional framework is emotional availability.
A big one.
And this is a term that gets thrown around constantly in pop psychology. But what does it actually mean operationally?
Operationally, emotional availability means you have the psychological space and the internal stability to let another human being impact your life.
Okay, psychological space.
It means you have processed the grief of your past relationships. You aren't secretly hoping to make your ex jealous.
Which happens a lot more than people admit.
Oh, constantly. It means you aren't using a new partner as a human band-aid for your own unhealed trauma.
Wow.
And you aren't using the chaotic drama of early dating as a distraction from your own life.
So you actually have room in your emotional house. You aren't just inviting someone into a room that is still full of someone else's boxes.
That is a perfect analogy, exactly. And closely tied to that is the third piece, the rigorous respect for boundaries.
Now, boundaries are another massive buzzword right now. People often use boundaries almost as a weapon,
Yes, they do.
like an electrified fence to keep people away. You crossed my boundary, so I'm cutting you off.
And that is a critical misunderstanding of the concept. Boundaries are not walls designed to keep people out.
What are they then?
They are the specific instructions for how to safely interact with you. Creating a boundary is actually an act of vulnerability. It is saying, here's where my comfort ends, and here is how you can love me safely.
I love that. It's like the API documentation for your personality.
I love the tech analogies today.
It tells the other person how to interface with your system without crashing it.
That's brilliant. And an intentional dater doesn't just communicate their own boundaries. They actively solicit and honor the boundaries of the other person.
It's a two-way street.
They don't push, they don't manipulate, and they don't view a boundary as a challenge to be overcome.
Which leads to the final requirement, right? The willingness to invest actual, unglamorous time.
Yes.
This is the absolute antithesis of swipe culture.
Completely. Swipe culture operates on the delusion of instant revelation. You look at a photo, read a clever prompt about their favorite TV show, and assume you know the essence of a person.
Which is absurd when you think about it.
It is. Intentional daters understand that human beings are vastly complex ecosystems. You cannot determine long-term compatibility from a witty text exchange or a single hour over coffee.
Real revelation is slow.
Yeah.
It happens when you see how they treat a frustrated waiter, right?
Exactly.
It happens when you see how they react when their flight gets canceled. It happens in the boring moments.
But here is where we reach the operational bottleneck for a lot of people.
Okay, what's the bottleneck?
If we look at these requirements, radical clarity, emotional availability, rigorous boundaries, and patient investment, this is not just a simple change in attitude.
No, it's huge.
This represents a completely different skill set. It treats dating not as a slot machine, but as an advanced interpersonal discipline.
And here is the brutal truth. Nobody is naturally good at this.
Almost no one.
We don't teach navigating anxious avoidant attachment traps 101 in high school. We don't have college seminars on how to de-escalate conflict without stonewalling.
We really should, though.
We absolutely should. But since we don't, knowing the theory of intentional dating is kind of useless without practical tools to execute it.
Which brings up the crucial question. Where do we actually go to build these skills? If the swipe apps are the casino, where is the university?
Exactly. And this is exactly where the landscape is shifting and why platforms like Weddizer are becoming so central to this new era.
Right.
What is vital to understand is that Weddizer is not another gamified swiping app. It is an infrastructure platform.
That's a key distinction.
It functions as a comprehensive resource hub. You use the Weddizer website for relationship and social etiquette purposes.
Yes, and it's tailored to specific niches and relationship dynamics.
Right, because you can find out how to deal with relationships, and you get relationship guidance through the article section on their website
Yeah.
related to whatever your niche is.
That distinction is paramount because when you transition from the shallow end of casual swiping into the deep waters of intentional dating, you are suddenly dealing with complex psychological currents.
You need navigational tools.
You really do. You can find out how to interpret confusing signals and how to build a sustainable connection through that extensive article section on their website. It offers incredibly targeted guidance.
Let's look at how that actually plays out in a real scenario.
Yeah.
Say you've decided to be intentional. You meet someone, you have shared values, but 3 weeks in, you hit a communication wall.
It happens to everyone.
Right. Now, in the swipe era, the solution was easy. You just ghost them, open the app, and find someone new. It's totally disposable.
But in the intentional era, you don't discard the connection. You repair the friction.
You fix it.
And that is where Weddizer's relationship guidance becomes the operational manual. Their resources help users understand the underlying mechanics of what is happening.
Like, is this a boundary violation?
Or is this an attachment trigger?
Yeah.
The platform provides the vocabulary and the frameworks to navigate the conflict rather than just fleeing from it.
It's giving you the blueprints to fix the house instead of just burning it down and moving to a new one. But I really want to zero in on something you mentioned, which the platform focuses heavily on, because I think it is the most misunderstood concept in modern dating. And that is social etiquette.
I agree completely. Social etiquette is deeply misunderstood.
Because when most people hear the word etiquette, their brain instantly jumps to, like, outdated, rigid, Victorian rules.
You picture agonizing over which fork to use for the salad course.
Right, or antiquated gender roles regarding who opens the door or who pays the bill.
It sounds incredibly stuffy.
It sounds like performing a script instead of being your authentic self.
But that is a catastrophic misreading of what etiquette actually is. Etiquette at its core is a technology for reducing social friction.
A technology for reducing friction.
Yes. It is a shared framework of respect. Weddizer champions etiquette not as a set of stuffy rules, but as a practical tool to create psychological safety between two strangers.
Let's break that down, because psychological safety is really the key here.
Well, think about the nervous system again. When you are on a date with a stranger, your amygdala is subtly scanning for threats.
Because you are vulnerable.
You are deeply vulnerable. Etiquette provides a predictable script that tells the other person's nervous system, I am a safe person. I respect you. I am not going to behave erratically.
So modern etiquette isn't about knowing how to eat an artichoke politely.
Not at all.
It's about deeply human behaviors.
Yeah.
It's the etiquette of not placing your phone face up on the table during dinner, constantly fracturing your attention.
Yes.
It's the etiquette of how you handle digital communication, not waiting 3 days to reply to a text just to assert power or seem aloof.
Exactly. And the most glaring example of an etiquette failure in the modern age is ghosting.
Oh, let's talk about ghosting, because everyone hates it, but it has somehow become the default setting for ending interactions.
It's an epidemic. Why is it so prevalent and why is it so damaging?
Ghosting thrives in environments of digital de-individuation.
Meaning what? Meaning, when you meet someone on an app, there are no shared social consequences. If you ghost a coworker, you still have to see them at the coffee machine.
There is social friction there.
But if you ghost a stranger from an app, they simply disappear from your screen. It is frictionless for the perpetrator, but psychologically devastating for the recipient.
Because it denies the recipient closure.
Yes.
It leaves them in a state of ambiguous loss, wondering if they did something wrong, or if the person literally died, or if they were just deemed entirely unworthy of a single sentence of explanation.
And Weddizer's etiquette framework attacks this directly. It establishes that a core tenet of modern manners is providing a respectful, clear decline.
Like, I really enjoyed our conversation, but I don't feel a romantic connection, and I want to be upfront about that.
Exactly. That is modern etiquette. It requires 30 seconds of mild discomfort for the sender, but it demonstrates fundamental respect for the dignity of the recipient.
It honors the fact that the person on the other end of the screen is a human being, not a discarded piece of content.
Right.
And that is why utilizing the articles and guidance on Weddizer is so vital, because it creates a shared standard.
It gets everyone on the same page.
When both individuals operate within this framework of good manners and clear communication, you eliminate the ambient paranoia of modern dating.
You establish a baseline of trust immediately. And from that baseline of safety, genuine, authentic vulnerability can actually take root.
Because you aren't terrified.
Right. You don't have to spend the first 3 months trying to decode their behavior because their behavior is clear and respectful.
And it's not just theory. It's highly practical because the platform provides real-world tips for dealing with everyday relationship friction.
Because even the most perfectly aligned intentional couples are going to misunderstand each other.
Oh, absolutely. Conflict is inevitable.
The illusion of the swipe era is that the perfect match means zero friction.
That you'll never fight.
Right. But the reality of the intentional era is knowing that friction is where the relationship is actually forged. Platforms like Weddizer give you the practical scripts for those moments.
Like how to validate a partner's feelings during an argument.
Or how to ask for space without triggering their abandonment anxiety. How to navigate the integration of two completely different lives.
We are looking at a stark contrast between two entirely different philosophies here. Swipe culture is essentially fast fashion.
Very much so.
It is cheap to acquire. It provides a tiny dopamine hit. It falls apart after 3 weeks. And it's basically designed to be thrown away.
Whereas the intentional framework,
supported by resources like Weddizer, is like building custom furniture. It requires time, expensive tools, patience, and a deep understanding of the materials. But it is designed to last a lifetime.
that is an excellent way to frame it. But it also highlights the final hurdle we need to discuss.
Okay, what's the hurdle?
Weddizer can give you the blueprints, the tools, and the theoretical framework. But an external resource cannot do the internal work for you.
Right. You can read every article on relationship etiquette in the world, but if your own internal engine is broken, the car still isn't going to drive.
Precisely. And that internal engine, the core requirement that powers this entire intentional framework, is emotional intelligence, or EQ.
EQ. Now, EQ is a term that gets thrown around in corporate seminars a lot, but its application in romantic relationships is literally life or death for the connection.
It dictates everything.
Let's break down the pillars of emotional intelligence as they apply to this new era of dating. The absolute bedrock foundation is self-awareness.
Without self-awareness, you are flying blind. Self-awareness is the ability to accurately monitor your own internal emotional state in real time.
Okay.
And, crucially, to understand the historical context of those emotions.
So it's not just knowing that you are angry, it's knowing why you are angry.
Yes. You cannot effectively communicate your needs if you have absolutely no idea what they actually are.
Give me an example of that in a dating context.
Let's say a new partner takes 6 hours to text you back. If you lack self-awareness, you just feel an overwhelming surge of anxiety and anger.
And then what do?
You might lash out, send a passive-aggressive text, or withdraw completely to punish them.
So you just react mechanically to the trigger.
Exactly. But if you have high self-awareness, you can pause and analyze the data. You realize, okay, I am feeling intense panic right now. Why?
Right.
Because my last partner used silence as a weapon to punish me. I am projecting past trauma onto a present situation.
Wow.
My current partner is just at work, but my nervous system thinks I am under attack.
That is basically a superpower. Because once you realize that, you can interrupt the cycle.
You regain control.
Instead of starting a massive fight, you can regulate yourself. Or you can communicate the vulnerability. You can say, hey, I know you're busy, but I realize I have a trigger around long periods of silence. It's something I am working on, but I just wanted to be transparent about where my head was at.
And that self-awareness transforms reactive, destructive behavior into proactive, connecting communication.
It changes everything.
And that leads directly to the second critical pillar, empathy.
Okay, so if self-awareness is understanding your own internal operating system, empathy is the ability to read the code of someone else's.
Exactly. But it's important to distinguish empathy from sympathy.
What's the difference?
Sympathy is feeling for someone. Like, I'm sorry you were sad. Empathy is the cognitive and emotional capacity to respectfully visit their internal landscape and feel with them.
It's the ability to say, I see exactly why that specific situation triggered you so deeply, even though it wouldn't have bothered me at all.
That is the crucial part. You don't have to share the reaction to validate the emotion. Empathy is the bridge that connects two isolated islers of human experience.
It bridges the gap.
When a partner feels truly seen and understood by you, even in their irrational moments, it creates an unbreakable neurobiological bond. It signals to their brain that they are fundamentally safe with you.
And when you have that safety built through self-awareness and empathy, you can finally tackle the third and perhaps most difficult pillar of EQ, conflict resolution.
We touched on this earlier, but it deserves deep exploration. because high EQ couples do not avoid conflict.
Wait, really?
Yes. In fact, chronic conflict avoidance is usually a symptom of a highly fragile, low-trust relationship.
I think a lot of people operate under the delusion that if you never fight, it means you are soulmates.
That usually just means one or both of you is suppressing their needs to maintain a false peace.
Walking on eggshells.
Right. Disagreements are structurally inevitable when you merge two complex adult lives. The hallmark of emotional intelligence isn't the absence of conflict, it is the mastery of repair.
It's the shift from me versus you to us versus the problem.
Exactly. When a conflict arises in a high EQ relationship, the goal is not to win the argument. The goal is mutual understanding and structural resolution.
How do you get there?
You use your self-awareness to manage your own defensiveness. You use your empathy to understand their grievance. And you use your communication tools, the etiquette and frameworks you've learned from places like Weddizer, to de-escalate and find a compromise.
So you don't use their vulnerabilities as ammunition during the fight. You maintain the boundaries of respect even when you are furious.
And the research shows that a relationship is actually stronger after a successfully resolved conflict than it was before the conflict occurred.
Because you survived it.
Because you have proven that the connection can withstand stress. You have stress-tested the bridge, and it held.
So when we zoom all the way out and look at this entire ecosystem, the rejection of the infinite swipe, the deliberate restriction of choice, the adoption of an intentional framework, the utilization of resources like Weddizer for relationship etiquette and guidance, and the foundational engine of emotional intelligence. We aren't just talking about a minor trend here.
No, we are talking about a fundamental sociological course correction.
We really are. And society is already showing massive indicators that this shift is underway.
The data points all point toward a collective exhaustion with the old model and a real hunger for this new paradigm.
Let's look at a few of those macro trends validating this shift, because people are already doing this. The first one is the rise of the slow dating movement.
This is a direct behavioral rebellion against the velocity of swiping. People are intentionally decelerating the process.
They are hitting brakes.
They are taking weeks to get to know someone through long-form communication before rushing into physical intimacy or exclusivity. They are allowing the slow burn of genuine chemistry to develop rather than demanding an instant spark.
It's recognizing that a bonfire takes time to build. A sparkler is bright and instant, but it burns out in 10 seconds and leaves you in the dark.
That's very poetic and very true.
The second major trend is the pivot toward offline connections.
We are seeing a massive resurgence in run clubs, niche hobby groups, and specialized social events specifically geared towards singles who have deleted their apps.
People want to meet in the wild again.
Because they are recognizing that digital interactions filter out 90% of the sensory data we use to evaluate a human being.
Like what?
Pheromones, microexpressions, the cadence of their laugh, how they hold themselves in a room. You cannot digitize that.
You have to get out of the virtual casino and back into the physical world.
Right.
And the third trend, which I think ties everything together, is the overwhelming focus on value-based matching.
Historically, dating apps pushed us to match based on the most superficial metrics imaginable.
Height, hair color, proximity, and a carefully curated set of photos.
Which is like buying a computer based entirely on the color of the plastic casing, without ever checking if the operating system is compatible with the software you need to run.
Oh, that is a perfect analogy. You bring the computer home, it looks great on your desk, but it crashes every time you try to use it.
Value-based matching is checking the operating system first.
It's asking the hard questions up front. Do we share a fundamental moral lens on the world? Do we agree on how to handle finances? Do we have compatible visions for family structure and lifestyle?
Because if the underlying operating systems are compatible, you can work through the minor bugs.
But if the operating systems are fundamentally incompatible,
no amount of physical attraction is going to make the relationship function long-term. Shared values are the load-bearing pillars of a lifelong partnership. Everything else is just interior decorating.
Okay, we have covered an immense amount of ground today, navigating the psychology, the biology, and the sociology of modern romance. Let's synthesize all of this into a concrete, actionable roadmap for the listener.
Let's do it.
If you are exhausted by the cycle, if you are staring at that screen and feeling the dread, how do you actually implement this paradigm shift in your own life today?
It requires a sequential, deliberate restructuring of your approach.
Okay, step one.
Step one, radical definition of intent. You must be brutally honest with yourself about what you are actually seeking. Are you looking for a life partner? Or are you just lonely and looking for a distraction? Define your required operating system before you start looking at the hardware.
Own your intentions. Don't pretend to be casual if you want a ring, and don't pretend to want a ring if you just want a +1 for the summer. Step 2. Deliberate restriction of bandwidth.
Delete the apps that rely on infinite scroll. Stop trying to date the entire internet. Limit yourself to engaging with a very small, highly curated number of people at any given time. Reclaim your emotional RAM so you can actually process the nuance of the person in front of you.
Step 3. The investment of time and the suspension of the search.
When you choose to engage with someone, turn off the radar. Stop scanning the horizon for a better option. Give them your absolute, undivided attention. Allow the slow revelation of their character to unfold.
And step 4. Utilize the architecture. Do not try to reinvent the wheel alone. We are unlearning a decade of bad habits here.
Engage with platforms designed for this specific era. As we discussed, go and use the Weddizer's website for relationship and social etiquette purposes. Dive into their articles on relationship guidance. Study their frameworks for social etiquette, not to be polite, but to build psychological safety.
Use their niche resources to understand how to communicate your boundaries and navigate the inevitable friction of merging two lives.
Treat it as the continuing education required for a successful partnership.
So if we pull all the way back, what does this entire deep dive mean for you, the listener? The fundamental truth is this.
Yeah.
The era of the endless swipe, the gamification of the human heart, is entering its twilight.
It's finally ending.
We are waking up from the digital illusion that more choices equal better outcomes. We realize that treating human beings like disposable commodities in an algorithmic marketplace leaves everyone emotionally bankrupt.
Prioritizing profound quality, intentionality, and deep emotional intelligence isn't just a lifestyle trend.
No, it is the only viable survival strategy for finding and keeping love in the modern world.
It is the evolution of romance. And as we close, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, one that shifts the lens entirely.
Let's hear it.
We spent this time talking about how intentional dating, utilizing resources like Weddizer, and applying rigorous emotional intelligence helps you find the right partner.
Right, which is the ultimate goal.
But consider the mechanics of what we've discussed. To do this correctly, you must become deeply self-aware. You must learn to regulate your nervous system. You must cultivate radical empathy. You must master the art of healthy conflict resolution. And you must learn to establish and respect boundaries.
It's an immense amount of internal work.
It is, which raises a profound question. If you commit to this framework, if you rigorously apply this intentionality to your romantic life, is it possible that the true value of the process isn't just that it leads you to the perfect partner?
What else could it be?
Is it possible that the grueling, beautiful process of learning how to love intentionally actually forces you to become a fundamentally better, more evolved, and highly emotionally intelligent version of yourself first?
Wow. That changes everything. The journey isn't just about discovering someone else. It's the forge that builds who you are. So the next time you find your thumb hovering over that glowing screen, ready to fall back into the infinite scroll, remember the cost of the swipe. You have the power to opt out of the casino. You can reclaim your bandwidth to find your intentions and choose to build something real. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.